Professor, I found something. What is it? Show me. It's the fabled green wasp. It can't be. These were thought to be long extinct. Wait, why is it glowing? A womp womp. Ah, fossil Pokemon. What would we ever do without them? Well, all you have to do is go to one of these regions to find out. It's kind of strange that only a few regions never got fossil Pokemon. Perhaps for some regions it just didn't make any sense at all. Like Johto is directly connected to Kanto and Paldea has the Paradox Pokemon in Scarlet, so yeah. But in case you don't know who I am, welcome, I'm Kyepha, subscribe. If something doesn't make sense, it somehow makes me want to draw it some more. So more fossil Pokemon it is. Today, we're making fossil Pokemon that were discovered in the Johto region. I wanted to sort of do counterparts to the Kanto fossils, so a couple of 2-stage mons and then a standalone will suffice. I actually had some really different ideas at first compared to what I ended up going ahead with. One of these ideas was a horned gopher. It was kind of looking sick, not gonna lie, but as I kept drawing it, I think, whilst I was drawing a Pokemon based on a prehistoric creature, it didn't look like a fossil resurrected Pokemon, and yeah, that was my problem. My challenge of the norm only gets so challenging. Regardless, I still carried on with my design to see if I could somehow make it look fossily. I was also using Eradicate as reference, not because I want it to be Eradicate, but because I wanted that early gen rodent look. I have a personal challenge with these mons to design them as if they were literally invented back in Gen 2. So, we'll see how well I do in that department. The tortured Gen 2 department. Attempt number 1 was fine. Not my favorite though, so I tried again. I think my biggest problem was that I didn't really make it look like a first stage. Probably just got too carried away with the reference material here, to be honest. My second attempt was actually kind of solid, but then again, not really given fossil vibes, TBH. I might have to shelf this idea because as much as I want it to exist, I don't think I'm really able to give my vision fruition. Flames. So Gophermon is gone. Not having it anymore. Maybe in the future, but sadly, not today. At least it looks better than my rough notepad sketch. Oh my goodness. Bring in the Isopod. Pet the Isopod. Tell it a bedtime story. This idea is making much more sense already because it can kind of be a direct counterpart to Kabuto. Now I want to sort of give it a mix of Kabuto and Wimpod vibes. Oh, by the way, this is my next idea, the one that I actually went with. So I realized I just never told you that. But yeah, Kabuto and Wimpod vibes. But I also don't want it to be wimpy, if you know what I mean. There is also another Pokemon I have in mind for inspiration. I almost want it to be some kind of evolutionary ancestor. Have you ever seen those, they're like Pokemon family trees. They're made by Zokai Official. That's kind of like a really good reference if you're wondering how I'm approaching these fossil Pokemon specifically. My Isopod is starting off swimmingly. I'm loving it. It's looking very good. I have a secondary inspiration for this line that I'm drawing, that being an archer. I'm kind of giving it bow and arrow vibes for the whiskers and also sort of making it look like a mustache because, I don't know, it's kind of funny. The eyes were originally going to give Kabuto with some insane eyelashes to substitute for head whiskers, if that's what we're calling them. But it just doesn't work and it doesn't look early gen enough, It kind of looks Gen 7, if anything. I think I need to give it some of those classic Gen 1/2 angry-ish eyes, if you get what I mean. The Haunter eyes. I'm pretty sure I've made this reference before. Kind of like this. And then I gave it some crazy brows. I say crazy brows when in reality, most creepy crawly Pokemon have these. The biggest challenge with making this design look classic was probably not making the design overly simplified, but also not too detailed, but also somewhat realistic. You know what? Everything was a challenge, and I'll do it again 5 more times. I'm having a lot of fun with it though. Way more fun than that damn gopher, I'm telling you. The colors are also a lot more muted than what I normally do. In fact, it actually reminds me of my old art because I used to be really dull with my color choices, especially in my first generation KyephaDex, which you can actually see on my wiki. Yeah, that's right. It's literally brand new. Don't worry, you haven't been missing out on it this whole time. I made it yesterday. But if you're interested in like all of my fakemon Pokemon, then you can check out the wiki. I'll leave a link in the description. So yeah, gave it some dull Gen 1 colors, but they also look kind of fire, so no complaints. Now it is time to move on to its evolved form. It will only get one stage. I don't actually know if any 3-stage fossils exist now that I think about it. My evolution is going to be Kabutops adjacent, but also with a twist. I'll keep on drawing, and if you figure out what the other Pokemon I've based this on is, then leave a comment below. I was struggling with these damn eyes, man. Like, are they supposed to be poorly proportioned? Probably not. Actually, you know what? I'm okay to admit the skill issue with this one. Okay, I got a better face drawn, and I reinforced the bow and arrow inspiration, but also referenced Minamoto no Tamitomo, a samurai who lived in the early 1100s, you know, just a few years ago. He used a bow and arrow, and it was said that his left arm was bigger than his right arm, okay? So I referenced that directly in my design here. I had one arm with like the double claw, and then the other arm is just wimpy. Kind of like Wimpod. Oh my god, it all comes together. The shell is also going along its abdomen instead of its back. I had it in my notes that I wanted the evolution to be inverted from the base form, so that's what I'm doing. The legs are kind of giving Pheromosa, TBH. Giant isopods are crustaceans and not insects, but they do very much resemble the friendly pill bug, or what is known as a slater in Mirage Island. So I do want to have it resemble bug in one way or another. In fact, it's probably going to be a bug type as well, LMAO. The colors are the same as our base form, and after coloring, I sort of kind of noticed that the head was lacking something, you know, just a bit of pizzazz, if you will. So I went in and added some ears, or, you know, ear resembling features, and it really truly helped to flesh out the design and really turn it into something solid. Also, if you have not figured it out yet, then let me just tell you, this design is loosely based on Kadabra. So random, I know, but honestly, the Abra line gives bug. I don't know if that's just a me thing, or if anyone else noticed, but yeah, it just looks like a big ass bug. Now for the second line of fossils, based on our lovely Beedrill, you know, in terms of the Pokemon ancestral lore, but also based on this weird wasp I discovered when looking for a suitable insect fossil. The only scientific name I've been able to find for it is Sirenobithilidae, you know, Latin stuff. Basically a family of ancient wasps. But aside from that, I couldn't really find a colloquial name for it, but they have been dubbed as the Venus flytrap wasp because they have this flytrap looking thing on their butt to basically kill flies. Sorry, flies. My first go at a base form was to do some kind of Weedle thing, but then I was thinking, wait a minute, I don't really want to just end up making paradox forms here, because then it's not really a fossilmon, is it? Or maybe it can still be one, but you know, you gotta see my point here. Essentially, all it needs to have is a sword or knife or some pointy object protruding from its head in some way. So yeah, Weedle ain't happening. Moving on to attempt number 2. I gave up on explicitly making it a lava because I think that mindset was confining me to just making worm, and I want to make something even better than that. So yeah, I ended up making worm, but you know, better worm, you know? It has some little wings, and I also gave it a tail with a mouth, kind of like a Venus flytrap. Right, Marina brain rot happening right now. I think it can also just outright look like a wasp from the get-go. It's not going to have a chrysalis form. It's from ye old days. Bugs just did it different back then. The color I went with for this design was like this neon adjacent green. I did try to make it a lot more muted, but it's still within that tone of color. The OG real-life wasp TM was fossilized in some amber, so I thought the green would be a fun reference to that. The reason I'm going so hard on the sword/knife/dagger mega design feature is surprisingly not because of Beedrill. That happened to just work out to be similar. It's actually because of another notable figure in Japanese history. Hattori Hanzo lived in the mid to late 16th century and was a master at sword fighting. So I wanted to have that sort of bleed into my design here. The evolution was actually like the hardest thing to design probably on this entire channel. I didn't want it to outright just be a Beedrill, but let's be honest, it's just gonna look like a Beedrill. Attempt number 1 is ant coded. It's got these long ass spindly looking legs, but I just cannot get this Venus flytrap to look right. Nothing in this world. I tried a couple designs and angles, but nothing seemed to feel quite right. Damn shame. Attempt number 2 started as Scolipede. Well, not really, but it kind of looked similar. I actually really vibe with it, and the funny thing is, looking back at my footage, the Venus flytrap tail looks really good. Like, it just fits in perfectly fine. I actually think the biggest issue I had at the time was finding a good pose and good position for the facial details and the legs. Guys, it doesn't look bad. Why did I scrap it? Why did I get rid of? Why is this shelved? I'm gonna have to scrap myself for this. Never mind, because without attempt 2, or win 1 as I'm calling it from now on, we wouldn't have arrived at the final concept. This one starts off more like a Beedrill, but I've also got some body armor on it. I also have its abdomen be one with the fly trap. Say goodbye, fly. Wait, is there a housefly Pokemon? I don't think there is. Oh my god, I gotta make that. I've also given it a crown headpiece sort of thing. It's basically taking elements from some popular depictions of Hanzo that I searched up. I was going to give it needle arms, but it didn't make sense for this design, so I kept its limbs all regular and then gave it a sword mouth / facial feature thing. I think it looks better. This design is probably a little too busy and bitsy to really be Gen 2 core. I think I made it just a little too modern with some of my design choices, especially looking back at the Gen 1 fossils and honestly even the Gen 3 and 4 ones. I don't know, I just think I did better with my Isopod, but you let me know what you think in the comments, because you guys tend to love the designs that I vibe with the least. If that ain't the artist experience, then I don't know what is. And now it is time for my final design. Oh my god, I cannot believe we're doing 5 of these. This week's Fakemon Friday is gonna be a Fakemon Saturday. I can just feel it in my bones. I actually spoke about my idea for this one in my Twitch streams. I tend to leak Fakemon stuff here and there ahead of time. This is basically a land counterpart of Aerodactyl. We also have Tyron and Tyrantrum as our land dinos, but I wanted to do one that would essentially be a convergent form. I basically just copied the basic facial features of Aerodactyl and replaced the wings for arms, and made the legs a little bit stronger so that it can just run around with ease. I also gave it spines that go down its back and tail. For the colors, I gave it a more earthy tone and also added some accents around parts of the design. The eye color remains the exact same though. Alrighty, I think it is finally time to take a look at all of our fossil friends. This video's going on for a very long time, I'm sorry about that, but we're getting to the good part, Okay, here we go. First up, we have Danguro, a rock bug type. It has the damp ability and is resurrected from the arch fossil. Starting at level 40, it evolves into Dangoyumi, also a rock bug. Upon evolution, it also gets the inner focus ability. Next, we have Togugo, a rock bug type. It has the Limber ability and it is resurrected from the cone fossil. Starting at level 40, it evolves into Sebunzo and keeps the same typing. Sebunzo's ability is pure power. Finally, we have Pterosaurus, a rock ground type with the ability Battle Armor. It is resurrected from the old silica. It does not evolve, but it is ecologically similar to Aerodactyl. Also, do you like my use of the official Pokemon Company term for convergent Pokemon? We don't say convergent in the official house. No, we say ecologically similar. So there we have it, my very own Johto fossils. fossils. If you want to see more fossils from Alola and Paldea, then please let me know, because this was honestly quite fun to make. Something a little out of my comfort zone, if you will. Thank you so much for watching my video. Please subscribe. I put out new videos every single Fakemon Friday or Saturday if you live on Mirage Island, just like me. And also thank you to the channel members Alex and Cluckington for your support. I really appreciate it. Now, can someone please tell me how to get out of 200 million BC?